Lagos sunrises had a way of mocking. Aisha, the city woke up in a rush, buses honking, traders shouting, damn fists cutting through traffic, but inside her apartment, everything stood still. She sat on the edge of her bed, holding a white envelope that had arrived 2 days ago, the one she still couldn't bring herself to open. Her name was written in that familiar handwriting she once loved, tracing with her fingers, Aisha Hassan, and beneath it, in the corner, the sender's name, Femi, her ex, her the man who had promised to make her the happiest woman alive, the same man who left her without a word 5 years ago. The letter had arrived like a ghost she never wanted to see again, wrapped neatly in gold-trimmed paper. She already knew what it contained: a wedding invitation, the proposal she never got. But now someone else did. The morning light fell on her dresser, glinting off an old silver bracelet Femi once gave her. She hadn't worn it in years, but she never threw it away either. Her friends called her foolish for that, but some memories cling even when you want to scrub them away. She reached for her cup of ginger tea, now cold, and sighed deeply. The city outside roared with life, but inside her heart, it was still the day he left, the day she waited in that restaurant, wearing a yellow dress he said he loved, clutching a small box in her hand with a bracelet she had bought for him. He never showed up. She called, texted, waited. By nightfall, she knew it was over. No explanation, no goodbye, only silence. Now, 5 years later, the silence had written back. Aisha finally tore the envelope open with trembling fingers. Inside was a card embossed with gold leaves. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Femi Adeyemi, Amara Ez, on the 20th of July at the Royal Palm Gardens, Lagos. Her throat tightened. She stared at the names for a long time. Femi and Amara. The letters swam before her eyes. Somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "Move on. Aisha, you've done enough grieving." But another voice, the one that remembered his laughter, his perfume, his promises, refused to stay quiet. "Why now?" she whispered to no one. That evening, as the city lights flickered across the lagoon, Aisha's best friend came over carrying suya and cold malt. "Babe," Ngozi said, slamming the door with her hip, "you look like heartbreak served with plantain chips. What happened again?" Aisha pushed the invitation toward her silently. Ngozi opened it, gasped, and then groaned. "Oh no, not him. Not this foolish boy." She threw herself on the couch dramatically. "You mean Femi, the ghost, now wants to invite his victim to his wedding? Is he mad?" Aisha laughed weakly. "Maybe he's just trying to make peace." Ngozi rolled her eyes. "Peace, big. Let him keep his peace. Me, I want war. How can he vanish for 5 years and then drop this like Amazon delivery?" But Aisha didn't answer. Her mind had already drifted back to those nights when love was still young, when Femi used to call her sunshine, when they'd sit by Bar Beach with Puff Puff and cold Coke, talking about their future children and the house they'd build in Lekki. She remembered how he always said, "When the time is right, I'll give you a proposal the whole of Lagos will never forget." She believed him. She had built her dreams around his promises. Now another woman would live them. "Don't even think about going," Ngozi warned, as if reading her thoughts. "If you go there, you'll only hurt yourself." Aisha smiled faintly. Who said anything about going? But later that night, while scrolling through her phone, she opened his Instagram page. His bio still said driven, grateful, blessed. Every new picture felt like a punch to the chest. Him in a suit, smiling at board meetings, his arm around a woman in a white gown for pre-wedding shoots. The woman, Amara, was beautiful, radiant smile, soft eyes, the kind of face that looked like peace. Aisha clicked away, tossing the phone aside, but sleep refused to come. By midnight, she sat by her window watching the rain fall over Lagos, the city lights blurring into tears. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet ache grew louder. It wasn't just about losing him. It was about losing the version of herself that believed love would protect her. She whispered to the rain, "Maybe closure isn't something you wait for. Maybe you have to create it yourself." The next morning, she woke up with swollen eyes and a strange calmness. She picked up the invitation again, stared at it, and smiled bitterly. "All right, Femi," she said softly. "Let's see how your perfect wedding looks up close." 2 weeks later, the Royal Palm Gardens buzzed with celebration. Music floated in the air, the scent of jollof and grilled fish mixed with laughter, and colors danced under the sun-gel shining, Agbetas flowing joy everywhere. Aisha stood at the gate in a simple emerald dress, clutching a gift bag. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had told herself she just wanted to see him one last time, to prove she had healed, but deep down, she didn't know if it was true. As she stepped inside, people's chatter faded into background noise, and then, across the decorated stage, she saw him, Femi, taller, broader, older but still carrying that same calm smile that once melted her world. Their eyes met briefly, and his expression faltered. For a moment, time paused. The bride Amara turned toward him, her laughter echoing through the hall. Aisha's chest tightened, but she smiled anyway and clapped softly with the guests. She found a seat at the back, trying to blend in, her mind a blur of memories. The MC cracked jokes. The couple fed each other cake, yet she couldn't stop watching him, the way he adjusted his cufflinks nervously, the way he avoided scanning the crowd too long as if he feared seeing her again. Then, during the couple's dance, Femi's gaze swept the room once more and landed on her. His smile froze for half a second, and Amara whispered something to him. He nodded quickly, but his eyes lingered. Ngozi, who had reluctantly come to protect her friend, leaned over and whispered, "You see his face? That man is not at peace. You still live in his head, rent-free." Aisha exhaled shakily. "It doesn't matter. He made his choice." But as the music swelled and the couple twirled under golden lights, Aisha felt a single tear roll down her cheek. She smiled through it, whispering to herself, "Goodbye, Femi." Yet destiny, as Lagos traffic always proves, rarely follows straight roads, because, as she turned to leave quietly before anyone noticed, a voice called softly behind her, one she had sworn she'd never hear again. "Aisha, wait." Aisha froze for a moment, her heart hammering in her chest as Femi called her name softly across the wedding hall. She had told herself she would stay in the shadows, blend into the crowd, keep her dignity intact. But the sound of his voice, the same calm, velvety tone that had once melted her, resolve made every promise she had whispered to herself crumble. Slowly, she turned, and their eyes met again. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of surprise, hesitation, and something she couldn't quite place, regret, longing. Femi stepped closer, navigating through the crowd of guests, dressed in vibrant African prints and sparkling gel head. The chatter and laughter of the wedding faded into a muffled hum as Aisha felt every step he took. She wanted to look away, to retreat into safety, but her body refused. Years of unresolved emotions had built up inside her, and now they surged, raw and unfiltered. "Can we talk?" he asked, stopping just a few feet away. His eyes searched hers, calm yet pleading. The bride, Amara, stood nearby, talking to relatives, unaware of the silent tension unfolding just a few meters from her. Aisha swallowed hard, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Femi, she started, but words faltered on her lips. Please, just 5 minutes, he said softly. Away from the crowd. She hesitated, glancing at Ngozi, who sat a few steps behind her, rolling her eyes with a silent "do it." Taking a deep breath, Aisha nodded, and together they stepped outside into the warm Nigerian afternoon, past the manicured gardens of Royal Palm, past the golden sunlight that made the palm leaves shimmer like gold. The space outside was quiet compared to the bustling ceremony inside. A soft breeze carried the scent of hibiscus, flowers, and grilled jollof wafting from the catering tents. Femi turned to face her fully, his hands in his pockets, a rare vulnerability in his posture. I never expected to see you here, he said, voice low. Not after all these years. Aisha kept her gaze fixed on the ground. I didn't expect to come either. She paused. But I wanted closure. He nodded slowly, taking a step closer. Closure. Or revenge. Aisha blinked, a small, bitter smile forming. Maybe a little of both. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Femi's shoulders slumped slightly, as though releasing a weight he had carried too long. Aisha, I owe you an explanation. Not for the invitation, not for Amara, but for myself. For leaving you that night. She interrupted him, her voice trembling. Femi, don't. I don't need excuses. I needed honesty. And the truth is, I've spent years living without the closure you refused to give me. He nodded, swallowing hard. I know. I can never take back what I did. I was foolish, selfish, and scared. But seeing you now, I realize what I lost. You. Aisha's chest tightened. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times in the past 5 years. She had rehearsed her words, her calmness, her detachment. Yet now, standing in front of him, she felt everything rush back. The laughter, the dreams, the promises. She started, then stopped herself. Tears welled up, blurring her vision. Femi, why did it have to be her? Why not me? Femi took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair. It wasn't about her. It was never about her. That night, I panicked. I didn't know how to be the man you needed me to be. I ran, and I've regretted it every single day since. Aisha swallowed, trying to contain the lump in her throat. Her hand instinctively brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. 5 years, she whispered. 5 years of wondering, of hoping, of hating myself for waiting. I know, he said softly, and I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve it, but I need you to hear the truth from me. One last time. He paused, letting his words settle. You were my everything, Aisha. You still are. Aisha's heart pounded. She wanted to believe him, to fall into the comfort of the man she had loved so deeply. But caution pulled at her. Femi, people change. We change. And the past, it doesn't just vanish. He nodded, looking down at the ground for a moment before meeting her gaze again. I know, but some feelings, some truths, they never really go away. For a few minutes, they stood there in silence, listening to the distant laughter and music of the wedding, feeling the weight of years between them. Then, almost hesitantly, Femi extended his hand. Aisha, can we start over? Not with promises this time, not with expectations, just honesty. Aisha looked at his hand, then into his eyes. She saw the sincerity there, the raw emotion, the man who had once been her world and still lingered in her heart. Slowly, She placed her hand in his. Maybe we can, she said softly, a small smile breaking through her tears. And in that moment, the Lagos sun seemed to shine a little brighter, casting warm light over the palm trees and gardens, as if blessing a new beginning. They walked back inside together, hand in hand, ready to face the world, not as past lovers haunted by mistakes, but as two people daring to hope again. The ceremony continued, colors vibrant, music lively, but for Aisha and Femi, the rest of the world faded away. That night, long after the music had quieted and guests had left, Aisha sat by her window again, looking out at the Lagos skyline. But this time her heart felt lighter. She whispered into the wind, "Some proposals come late, but maybe, just maybe, they come when they're meant to." And somewhere across the city, Femi looked out of his hotel window, thinking the same thing, a faint smile on his lips, knowing that the love they had lost for years was finally finding its way back home. Aisha woke up the next morning with a lightness in her chest she hadn't felt in years. The memories of the wedding hall, the garden, and Femi's extended hand lingered like a warm sunrise. For the first time in 5 years, she felt a cautious hope that maybe, just maybe, love could find her again. She went to her boutique as usual, folding dresses and arranging fabrics, but her mind wandered. Every customer, every thread, every color seemed to remind her of the life she had almost given up on. Ngozi and Saad, her two closest friends, noticed the glow on her face. "Something's different today," Ngozi said, nudging her as she arranged necklaces on the display. "You're smiling too much for a Tuesday." Aisha chuckled softly, brushing her hair behind her ear. Maybe it's nothing, but inside, she couldn't ignore it. Femi had reopened a door she had long thought closed, and she wasn't ready to let that feeling go. Later that day, her phone buzzed. A message from Femi. "Can we meet tonight? Just us. No wedding crowd, no chaos. I want to hear your voice, not just see you from across a room." Her heart skipped. She replied instantly, agreeing, and spent the rest of the day in a mix of nervous anticipation and careful preparation. By evening, she had chosen a simple but elegant outfit, a soft cream dress that matched the warmth of the Lagos sunset. The cafe they met at was quiet, tucked into a corner of the city, with soft lights and the faint aroma of roasted coffee and pastries. Femi was already there, waiting, dressed casually but impeccably. His smile warmed the moment, and for a second, the years melted away. They talked about mundane things, first, the boutique, the city, even the weather, but beneath the surface ran the undercurrent of unsaid words, of years of waiting and hurt. Aisha found herself laughing at his stories, genuinely, without the careful walls she had built around her heart. Finally, after ordering a light dinner, Femi leaned back and looked at her seriously. "Aisha, there's something I need to say. Something I should have said a long time ago." Her stomach tightened. "I'm listening." He took a deep breath. "I want to be honest, completely. I've spent years thinking about you, regretting how I left, how I hurt you. I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I can't ignore what I feel anymore. I love you. I never stopped." Aisha's hands trembled slightly as she picked up her glass of juice. Her mind raced 5 years of pain, of disappointment, of protecting herself, but the sincerity in his eyes, the calm steadiness in his voice, made her want to believe. Femi, I don't know what to say," she whispered. "I've been hurt. I've been careful, maybe too careful." "I understand," he said softly. "I don't want to rush you. I just want the chance to show you that I'm different, that I've changed, that I'm ready to be the man you deserve." For a long moment, they sat in silence, the city lights twinkling outside the cafe windows, reflecting in their eyes. Then Aisha spoke, her voice firm but gentle. "I want to believe you, Femi. I really do. But I need time. Time to trust again." He nodded, smiling faintly, not with frustration but with understanding. "Time. I can wait. I'll wait as long as you need." Days turned into weeks, and their connection deepened. They went on long walks along the Lagos waterfront, sharing stories of their childhood, their dreams, and their fears. Femi never pressured her, never rushed her. He listened, truly listened, and that made all the difference. One rainy afternoon, as they sheltered under a large mango tree near her boutique, Femi turned to her with a small, nervous smile. "Aisha, can I ask you something?" She looked at him, heart fluttering. "Anything." He took her hands gently in his. "Will you let me in? Not just today, not just tonight, but fully. Will you let me love you again, with all the mistakes of the past behind us?" Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness but from the overwhelming mixture of relief, hope, and love. She nodded, her smile breaking through. "Yes, Femi, I will." From that moment, they walked hand in hand, leaving behind the ghosts of past heartbreaks. The city around them buzzed with life, but for Aisha and Femi, time seemed to slow. Love, once lost, had found its way back, not hurried, not forced, but patient and real. Weeks later, Ngozi and Saad visited the boutique, sensing the change in her aura. "So, spill it," Saad said, eyes sparkling. "Who's making you smile like a schoolgirl?" Aisha laughed, a sound full of warmth and contentment. "His name is Femi, and he's finally here to stay." And as the Lagos sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Aisha knew that some proposals, no matter how late, were worth the wait. The pain, the waiting, the heartbreak, it had all led to this moment. And for the first time in years, she felt whole again. The rain had stopped by morning, but the scent of wet earth still lingered in the air, like a quiet blessing. Lagos had woken up to another golden dawn, and for the first time in a long time, Aisha didn't feel like running from the day. She stood by her window, watching sunlight touch the palm trees outside. Her mind replayed the night before, the mango tree, the rain, the warmth of Femi's hands, the trembling words they had finally said out loud. "I never stopped loving you," he had whispered, "even when silence was the only thing between us." Those words had stayed with her, not because they were perfect, but because they were real. For years, Aisha had built walls around her heart, convincing herself that love only brought pain. But Femi's presence had slowly chipped away those walls, piece by piece, until she could finally breathe again. That morning, as she looked into the mirror, she didn't see the same woman who had once cried herself to sleep. She saw strength, she saw forgiveness, she saw a new beginning. Later that day, she stepped out wearing a soft yellow dress, the same color Femi used to say reminded him of sunrise. Her boutique opened with its usual chime, but the day felt different. Her two assistants smiled at her, noticing something glowing in her eyes. "Madam Aisha, you look happy today," one of them said. Aisha smiled. Maybe happiness was waiting for me to stop running. Hours passed. The city outside buzzed with life, vendors calling, children laughing, motorcycles rushing by. Around 4 p.m., she heard the boutique door open again. She didn't even have to turn to know it was him. She could feel the air shift, her heartbeat quicken. When she finally looked up, Femi was standing there, not in a suit, not pretending to be strong, just a man with honesty in his eyes. He was holding something small, a wooden box, handcrafted with tribal patterns. Aisha froze for a moment, afraid to believe what she thought was happening. Femi took a step closer, voice trembling but steady. "You once told me I didn't know what I wanted," he said softly. "You were right. I was lost. I chased everything the world told me to, but none of it meant anything. Not without you." He took a deep breath, opening the box. Inside was a ring, simple, golden, with a small emerald that shimmered like morning dew. "This time," he said, voice breaking slightly, "I'm not here to promise perfection. I'm here to promise effort, to choose you every day, in the small ways that matter." Tears filled Aisha's eyes before she could stop them. She had imagined this moment once, long ago, under stars, in daydreams, in whispered prayers. But this felt different. Real, soft, earned. She stepped closer, placing her hand over his. "You don't need to promise the world, Femi," she whispered. "Just don't disappear from mine." For a second, silence filled the boutique, just their breath, the hum of the city, and the sound of hearts finally finding home. Then, Femi slipped a ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if time had been waiting for this very moment. A few weeks later, the boutique was brighter than ever. Aisha's laughter filled the space, mingling with the rhythm of music from the nearby market. Outside, the Lagos sky turned orange with sunset, and the scent of roasted corn and rain filled the air. Femi often stopped by after work, sometimes just to sit quietly, watching her help customers, smiling at the life they were building together. They didn't talk much about the past anymore. They didn't need to. The silence that once separated them now felt peaceful, full of understanding. Every look, every touch said what words could not. "We made it." On weekends, they would walk along the waterfront again, where waves kissed the shore and streetlights painted silver lines on the water. Children played nearby, their laughter echoing like a prayer for love that lasts. Femi would hold Aisha's hand tightly, sometimes glancing at her ring and smiling like it was still the first time. And on some evenings, under the same mango tree where rain had once fallen on them, Aisha would close her eyes and whisper, "Thank you, not just to Femi, but to the universe, for endings that turn into beginnings, for broken hearts that learn how to beat again, and for love that waits patiently, even when it's forgotten for a while. Because sometimes, the proposal you never got finds its way back to you when you've finally learned how to love yourself again."